Hello and welcome back to AC's Make and Repair. Today we're going to make one of these. This is what they call a pastry tamper. It's used for putting pastry into muffin trays, etc., and little cake trays, etc., like patty cake tins. My daughter wanted me to make one of these so she could use it to do these little shells for pastry like caramel tarts, lemon tarts, etc. I'll show you what they're used for right now. Well, this is finally what it's made for. You dip the end of the tamper in flour and you put in the tray, the little cupcake tray, a small amount of dough, and then you push down on the dough like this and wriggle it around a bit, and once it's squeezed out the top a bit, you can actually trim that there with a knife if it comes out in excess like that, which makes it a lot better and makes a nice neat little job. You wriggle it and it comes out. Look at that, beautiful, eh? And I'm not even a good cook like this. Here we go, we'll go again. Just wriggle it around. I didn't flour that one, I should have floured the tamper. See, there you go. And I'll flour it again now. Necessary to flour it. Push it down. There you go, look at that. Any person could do it. You'll enjoy the outcome. These are for little tiny lemon tarts, so you'll enjoy the outcome. So first of all, we need to make a picture or a plan of what we're going to do. So this drawing shows the diameters and lengths of what we need. Because I'm doing two sizes of tray, this one, which is a larger size, and this one here, which is a smaller size, I've got it on the one tool to do the job. So I'll simply show you how I measured these out. Your tray sizes will differ from mine, okay? So don't take note of my sizes when I tell you what I measure. So I'll measure it out on the big tray first. First thing we'll do is I'll show you how to measure the depth. This is how I did it. You might have a little depth gauge. I just used a small combination square. I push it down on the bottom of the tray, avoiding to scratch the non-stick coating so I don't get in trouble from the women. I measure the size. In this case it was 23 millimeters. Now because they want 3 millimeters of pastry all the way around the edge of their tray, I took off 3 millimeters. So that measurement on this one came back to 20 millimeters. The next thing I did was measure the diameter. Now on the diameter, there's a small round over on the corner. I'll show you in a drawing. There's a small round over on the top corner and on the bottom corner. What I did is roughly worked out where the round over stopped, and I measured from there to there, and on the top where the round over stopped, and I measured from there to there. I used a pair of dividers because it was very hard to get down inside the tray. So I measured down, I put my dividers down at roughly 3 millimeters above the bottom of the tray. So I measured it, then I got it out with a steel ruler and I measured the length of that on my ruler. In that case there, my diameter was 42 millimeters at the bottom, 3 millimeters above. So I went back to 39. Actually, I went back further than that because you have to take 6 millimeters off the overall inside diameter. So in that case, it would have been 45 millimeters initially. So I took the 6 millimeters off, which came back to 39. That allows for the pastry. And on the top, I used a pair of vernier calipers, which I could get to the top, and I measured, if you can see that clearly, between there and there on the rollover. So on that point there, on the rollover point there and there. And I got a measurement on the top of 50 foot. Well, it's actually 60 millimeters on the top, but by the time I take off the 6 millimeters for the pastry, it came back to 54. I allowed roughly 100 millimeters between the two ends, just for a little simple handle so they could push it down easy. But I allowed so it wouldn't take up too much room in the utensils drawer. On this tray, I measured it the same way as I did the big tray, allowing for the 6 millimeters overall in the outside diameter on the sides, but only 3mm in the height. So all around the tray is 3mm allowance for pastry thickness, or 1/8 of an inch for you American guys, people who work at Imperial. So 6mm in the outside diameter, 3mm on the height of the muffin or the cake. So there you go. I should have mentioned, if you haven't got a combination square or simple depth gauge, you can use vernier calipers to measure the depth, like that, using that as the depth gauge, or use 2 rulers. Hold one ruler across the flat and measure the depth like that, remembering to take your 3mm off, allowing for the pastry. Now that we've drawn the plans, as we showed you before, we need to choose some material to make the item out of. In this case, I had some 3x3 inch pine. It's clear pine, has hardly any knots in it. It's rough sawn, and the reason I chose rough sawn, in my case, this piece I believe is non-toxic. That's a crucial thing when you're using pieces of timber for food production of any type. Has to be non-toxic. Some timbers are toxic in their own natural state, so be careful of that too. You'd have to choose that where you live in the world. So in this case, I just picked a clear piece of pine, non-toxic, and then I prepared it. I got a pencil and I marked the centre point on either end, and I cut a little bit of a cross on it for the drive dogs and my lathe. Now there are some specific tools you will need for this particular job. You will need a wood lathe with some turning chisels. You will need some vernier calipers, such as these. You will need your drawing with you, like that. You can use spring calipers. You can use a sizing tool to do the sizing down of the size we need. But you'll basically get away with a roughing gouge and a skew to do the production, and some sandpaper. For the finishing of the job, you will need some baby oil, which is a non-toxic baby oil, or some non-toxic mineral oil, or some vegetable oil to finish the job. You could possibly even get away with some clean beeswax, natural beeswax, to finish the job. Neither is crucial there, as long as it's non-toxic, to finish it, to seal it at the end of the job. This is already prepared for turning. As you can see, I've cut it to length. I've cut it oversized so we don't waste any material. We've got a little bit of waste, on either end. I used a chop saw just to chop mine. You could use a hand saw to cut that to length if you wish. That's not a problem. We're going to go from here to the lathe now and show you the turning process. Now we're at the lathe. We place our piece of material in the centre of the lathe, as I showed before. I've cut a cross mark to suit the drive dogs on the teeth on my old drive dog, or some people call it a spur. Mine's only a 4-pointer, very common years ago. So I place the centre of that in there. I've already pre-marked the end of my stock. Place the centre of my drive dog in the centre of the pre-cut cut. Lock off my tailstock. Wind my tailstock centre into the centre mark and lock it off. Next thing I set my tool rest up as such. Bring the stock across so I'm clearing it. Lock that off. Adjust my tool post rest height, and then we're ready for turning. Alright, so first thing we'll do is rough it down to a rough cylinder, clean it up a bit, then I'll show you the simple way that I mark out, and then we'll go from there. Okay, we're going to start. We've got a very rough cylinder there now, So I loosen it off, bring it in closer. At this point in time I take my skew, I love a skew to turn down with, so at this point in time I'll take my skew, I'll turn that down some more. And notice I use my hand at the back. I actually find it steadies my hand at the front and I can get a far better smoothing cut. The shavings that can come up in a nice clean cut spiral. A very neat way of finishing. So that's still a rough cylinder, and I'll show you my marking out process now. Okay, now for the marking out process. We have our drawing here in front of us. So I've just gone through and marked a few marks. I'll show you how I do that now. The first measurement is 18mm, so I allow a little bit of waste between the tailstock centre. I actually allowed 20mm there, so it gives us room to finish the shape of our item when we're done and sand it down, etc. Then I allowed 100mm. I put a mark at 100mm. Then I allowed my 20mm. You could actually probably go a little bit over and make that 105 if you wanted to, just to give yourself a little bit of play to clean the back shoulders up a bit if you wanted to. Then I allowed my 20mm. Then I allowed some waste there. These spaces here, I'm going to trim down to the size that I need here. So that's 30mm. I'll go down to 30mm in that. And up here, before we even trim the centre out, I'll go down to 37mm up here. Up this end, I'll go down to 54. And then I'll go down to 39 on the small end. I'll show you different ways to turn that down with calipers, vernier calipers, like spring calipers, vernier calipers, and a sizing tool. That'll give you a rough idea how things work there. Okay, so let's do that now. That's how I marked it. I just got a simple steel ruler and I put it on there like that, marked it out like that. If you want to, you can transfer marks a bit stronger just by going like this. And when your lathe's going, you can transfer in the full diameter around your item. So let's do that now and I'll show you what I do there. I just get my pencil, touch, 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 touch. If you're doing spindle turning and like production turning, you can use a marking out board, so you can cut a piece of say inch by 3/4, put some brad nails through it at certain intervals for your beads, etc. And you can just push that on and it actually scratches those marks for you. But that's only when you're doing a lot of production of a lot of the same item at once. That's the only time you sort of really do that sort of thing. Okay, for the first step size, I'm going to use spring calipers just to show you how to do that method. So I put the spring caliper on the end of my steel ruler. It's on 35mm now. I need 39mm for this lower end, for the small end. So I wind it out and back to suit the 39mm mark. We're really pretty close to it right there. Just double check. Yep, 39mm. So what I do is some people use a parting tool. You can use a straight chisel if you want to. That's entirely up to you really, what you use there. You can use a parting tool if you want. You could use a skew on an angle if you want, depending on how much room you got. Okay, firstly, I'm using a skew for all these marks. I come in, I transfer that pencil mark onto the body. This head's not that spooky. This is the end we're going to do first, so I'm going to rough it down. Roughly close to the 39 millimeters. I'll check with the verniers just to be on the safe side. You don't want to go past, you can't put it back on when you take it off. That's at 45, so we're going to have to take a little bit more off to get it down. At this point in time, I take my spring calipers, I rest them on the back, okay, I bring my screw across, you can bring it in even straight if you want it like that, but you get more chatter, so I tend to still use it as a skew. Like I say, some people use a parting tool. I'll show you how to do it with that. And once it gets to the diameter you want it, this is actually the small one. I actually said 39. This one's actually 30. So I'm just going to trim that down a bit more and get it roughly the size. That's about 35 there now, I think. So I need 30 millimeters. I've stopped the video and readjusted. This is set at 30. On the edge here, I'll just do it down to 30 so I know. There we go, we're very close. There we go, we just went over there. So that's 30, see how it slips straight on? Because you're holding the bottom edge on the bottom of it, and pushing pressure on it. Once it slips over, you know that's the size. So I'll just go down there roughly that size all the way across. Like that. Bring my spring calipers back on just to be on the safe side. There we go, there's 30. So I'll trim that all down nice and flush down here. Now that's crucial because our taper tapers off that. Now I've got to take this one here down to the size I need, which on this small end is 37 millimeters. So I'll stop the lathe and I'll set up. Now that's how you use spring calipers. You can use vernier calipers the same, by the way. You can use vernier, so I'll show you how to use vernier on that. So we had to go to 39 millimeters, so I set that up at 39. They're not as easy to use as spring calipers because there's not much length in them. So that's 39. I'll roughly turn this down to, so we know that's 30, so I have to roughly go, 10 millimeters bigger diameter than that. So I'll rough that down to that on that edge, and we'll just have that spig in the middle. I'll show you how that's done. Do a nice sharp cutting. Must be getting close to it there, so just get my calipers and just give it a rough measurement. Oh, look at that, I've just gone over. I've actually gone too far. But that doesn't matter because I haven't ruined the part that matters the most. So I know that I'm about a millimetre too small. I've gone a little bit too far by eye. So I'll just turn this down and stop proud. And we'll double check. I'll start getting the profile rough on a rough paper, like that. Okay, I'll stop it there. Checking again with calipers. So I've still got to go down with this diameter here. Only probably a fraction. 30 of that. Okay, I'll just double check that because you don't want to go too far. Like I said, you can't put it back once you take it off. Oh, very, very close. Very, very close. Bottom edge is right there. It's actually the right height. Take the calipers again. Oh, look at that. I could just about sand that back to right. But I'll risk it and I'll take a fine cut. There we go. I'll just give that a little bit of a light sand to see how we're going, but that should be pretty well smack on. You want it pretty smooth because you don't want the dough to stick to it when they use the tamper in on the dough. So that's the right size OD there. Now we had to get 30 there, so I'll just double check that. Fraction over there, so I can actually take a little bit more off the bottom, but I might just sand that out because it's only a fraction. So I'll sand that. I'll round that bottom corner a little bit and so forth. I have to double check my height too, which was supposed to be 18 millimeters. So I allowed 20. So I can actually take a bit of the top side probably there, which is not a problem. So I can take a little bit off this top side, which will bring it down better. It's still a little bit proud, so that's pretty good. I'll just double check that. Yep, that's 18. Well, near enough once I sand it. These things don't have to be 100% accurate, but you need to get it in the ballpark so the dough stays the right size. So I'll just give that a little bit of a chamfer there. Top doesn't have to be chamfered so much. Just a little bit of chamfer on the bottom so it releases easy. I can square that totally off and cut that off totally later. That's not a problem. I'll do a little bit now, but I won't take too much until I've done this end. So just take a little bit of a chamfer and then cut it in. Now at the top edge here, just a whisker, like that. and I'll cut it in. Right, now to the big end. So that's our small mandrel done. Now for the big end. I'll show you how to use the sizing tool. This is a homemade size that I've made. I think Sorby make one similar. These have been around for a long time. A lot of people used to make these years ago. An old production turner I knew, he used to make them. And this has just got a simple chisel on it. And it does the job of the caliper as well as the chisel at the same time. And I'll show you how to use that on this big end, because it actually makes the job a little bit easier, I feel. So I'll set that up. The large end size on the big end is 54mm, so I take my ruler, undo that clamp, slide that back, right back there somewhere, because that's going to be about 50 something. I take my ruler, so I'm going to move it back in a little bit, and I measure with the ruler into there. That is smack on 54. Right now, so lock that off. When I get it to the desired measurement, lock it off tight. You don't really need it adjusting itself. Only good part about that is it'll adjust itself bigger. 54mm, rightio, we're set up for that. Now that's for this side, or the big one. So that's the largest side, so I'll turn that roughly down before I'll put the sizing tool anywhere near it. Just getting a rough gauge. We're still at about 60. So continue to go down. Once we're getting close there, so I'll bring the sizer over. I'll put it on there like that. Slowly bring it down. That should be it. I'll just double check with the calipers to be on the safe side. .54 on the knocker. So that works very, very good. I can roughly turn that down there to that. I'll transfer that right over against the shoulder. That's our upper lip size. So I'll do that right now. There we have it right there. Come over the lower side, cut that back a bit, trim that up. Just double check that 20mm. Yeah, that's 20mm neat. I'll cut that in a bit neater on this side, and then I'll use the sizing tool on that one, which has to go down to 39. So we've got a bit to play with there. I'll give it a bit of this weight. So it's running low. Get that close to where its finish size is. You only really need to trim with the sizing tool down to, so that's 49 millimeters. We had to go down to 39. We've got 5 millimeters off one edge, off the edge to take, so we'll take a little bit more. Cut it in a bit more here on the shoulder. Best to take your time and double check, and that way you're not taking too much. Right, we're down to 46. A little bit more. They don't have to be close. So I'll take my sizer again, lessen that off, take it into roughly 39. Back it off, I'll push it in a little bit far. There we are on 39. I've got to lock that off. I'll double check that though. Sometimes when you lock them off, that's 39. Lock it off tight. Okay. Bring it down slowly. Don't go too fast, you don't want it to grab. Like that. Okay, we're getting it nice. And I'll do exactly what I did the other side. I'll trim that down. So it comes right up against the shoulder. There we go. Yeah, that should be 39. I'll just double check that with the calipers. $39. I think I've made a mistake there somewhere. Looks too steep on the top. I'm wondering if I'm 10 millimeters out with measurement. I'll go and double check that just to make sure on my drawing. Okay, I'll just roughly do that down. Actually, before I do, I'll go and double check it just to be on the safe side. No, it was the right measurement, so that's good. So I'm just going to put a cut into there so we know where our finish point is. Then I'll turn that down. I'll show you. I'll turn this down here. Well, there you have it. We've finished the build. I'm sorry about the camera battery going flat towards the end of the turning project. All we had to do was to turn that taper and the handle. The taper is the same process as on this end, turning from the corner of the flat here to the internal corner of the flat down there. I didn't see it totally necessary to redo the whole job just to show you guys how to do that. It's fairly straightforward, that particular part of the process. And I just cut it off with the bandsaw and sanded these ends flat. You could actually do that with a belt sander, nice and flat if you want to. It gets a smoother finish. Sometimes pine tears out a little bit, and it's hard to get dead true in the lathe, but on a belt sander you get it nice and flat and flush, and it's nice and neat. You've seen the results of what it can do. I think you'll enjoy eating the results too of what this can help do. So appreciate you watching. Please like and subscribe and comment if you see the need to, and we'll catch you on the next one hopefully. Bye.